Hi, Shelby.
Hi, Steve.
Here we are again. So the last time we were talking about the mini stories, and it is important that the voice be pleasant and not run too fast. And we're going to make sure that that is the case wherever we can. We have so many people involved in those. It's difficult to control them all, but we will definitely make an effort.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things about, I know the mini stories, it's not like they're not gripping. Especially not the 20th time.
They are relatable, though, I will say. I can't remember which number it was, but one of the mini stories I went through this week talks about, this guy who's got a new girlfriend. He wants to cook her a meal. He goes to the store. He doesn't buy anything. He leaves and gets pizza. I was like, I can relate to that.
These stories were written by a girl who was an English teacher. Canadian girl teaching English in Japan.
Okay.
I personally like them. I think there are little elements of humor, like the guy who has a date with a girl and they sit there and they look at each other. Have you had that one?
Yeah, I think that was the last one I went through this week.
Yeah. No, and there's others like that they're not, like they're little vignettes and they have often a somewhat surprising, and like the guy, well, you haven't come across them yet. There's a whole bunch of them.
Don't spoil
I think
it.
she did an amazing, eh?
Don't spoil the ending.
Don't spoil it. So they're not totally without interest. They're not like a bunch of sentences thrown together.
Sure, right.
And they don't have to pretend to be anything. They're little stories. So I think she did a fabulous job myself. I don't mind them. But the voice has to be pleasant and it has to be at the right speed. But it is this, it's, you know what? Like I was in the lumber business, and when we did quality control, we did sort of, and it's any manufacturing process, you do a random sampling.
Mm-hmm.
So, you take 100 pieces of lumber out of the line and you measure them for moisture content or knot size or whatever it might be. And those 100 pieces, which you pulled out of the line, is a small percentage, a couple of percent of the total number that's running across your production line. But it is an indication of what's in that batch of lumber. And language is a bit like that. Like, you can take any sampling of the language, it's going to have a lot of the characteristics of the language. So if the mini stories don't cover a lot of vocabulary, eventually to acquire the vocabulary you need, you have to read widely and you have to listen widely. But the essence of the language, the structure, the frequent verbs, the frequent conjunctions, they're all there. Mm-hmm. That little sampling is quite representative. So if you can master those things, and of course I shouldn't ever use the word master, but it's a place where you can go back and train on sort of the essential, bits and pieces. You still have to go to the broader range of things, music, cooking, and politics and history to get a broader vocabulary. Mm-hmm. But the mini stories, I just can't stress enough how much they've changed my approach to language learning. And I use them to start in a language, and then I go back to review, to refresh, to bring my grammar up to speed, and so forth.
Yeah, no, the more that I'm listening to them and reading them, mm-hmm. and especially just listening to them, like having them as background noise. Like I don't use my dishwasher, for example, so when I wash the dishes, I'm listening to the mini stories, and sometimes when I'm working out or doing laundry, very riveting things I'm doing around my house.
Exactly.
I find that even when I am not fully comprehending every single thing in the mini stories, it is going into my brain, because then when I'm giving it my full attention, I can actually understand it. And even more surprising, I'm starting to be able to produce a sentence with the correct structure. So I think of it a lot as like, the way I learned English as a native English speaker. I mean, for the first couple years of my life, I'm sure I did not understand anything that anyone was saying. And over time, you just start to learn because you're exposed to it so much. So
one thing I've started doing now is if I'm listening, because I listen to them in Arabic or Persian or whatever, Italian. And as you said, it's easier to listen while you're doing something else, something that doesn't require a lot of brain power.
Yes.
It's easier to do that rather than just sit down and now I'm going to listen, because then you start fidgeting and you want to do something else. But if you're already doing something else, then you're quite content. At least I am. I think you are quite content to listen. I'm also quite able to repeat while listening.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's something I can also do. I don't answer the questions, like they ask me a question, I don't try to answer them because then I have to think. So whereas just repeating, you don't have to think. But at least it forces you to say what you're hearing, and I think it focuses your attention better. But that's all the more reason why we have to make sure that they're not spoken too quickly, otherwise you don't have a chance to repeat what you hear. Right. Okay. Now the mini stories, of course, we go through them here, and I wouldn't say they get more difficult. The only real difference is that after lesson 20, they have the past tense.
Okay.
And whereas the first 20 lessons is everything is in the present tense. Now,
That's true.
the past tense isn't necessarily more difficult than the present tense, but at least in the first 20 stories, you know you're in the present tense. When we come past the first 20 lessons, not only will you have the past tense, you'll have the imperfect, you'll have the future, you'll have the conditional, you'll have all those different tenses. and I don't think it's more difficult because, to my mind, you just relate these to meaning. You don't have to have the term pluperfect or conditional or subject. You just relate it to meaning. So that's something we have to look forward to.
Yes.
But for the time being, we're not there yet.
Well, I'm very excited for that.
Okay. We'll see what happens.
All right.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm actually still in the lesson from last video. So over here on the side, if I click on the link mini stories, it's a great way to show sort of your progress. So of course,
also the view course is kind of a useful place to go to get at, if you want to go, you're on lesson 10 and you want to jump to lesson 30, then you go to view course and you can quickly find it. By the way, I guess you haven't done number 6 yet, but we won't go there today.
That's strange. I think it's maybe I just didn't hit the complete.
Oh, okay, that's probably what it was.
I'm sure I didn't skip it, but who knows? This isn't
not.
school, so.
I would hope not. Okay,
so
so you can randomly select something.
Okay.
And but the point is, we're going to do an experiment here. We're going to go into a lesson that you haven't seen before.
Okay, so I'm going to grab.
Whereas last time we were in a lesson that you had already done.
Yes, exactly. So number 17 is speaking to me. Let's just give this one a whirl, see what we have here.
Okay.
Okay. Just get rid of this blue word. Ma rentrée de travail.
Du travail.
Du travail.
Right, the L we don't hear.
This word's really hard for me.
Okay, rentre. Now, rentrer is to return. And it's like re-enter, right? We would identify it with in English, but it means like la rentrée scolaire is the return to school. Like now there's a lot of talk of our kids going back to school, blah, blah, blah. La rentrée scolaire, they talk about, school begins again. So rentrer is to return. It doesn't mean re-enter, like he's not re-entering. Rentrer is, he comes back, rentrer. There is another verb, retourner. They could say retourne du travail. You could also say that, but it's more common to say rentre du travail.
Oh, and both would work for like a person returning. I was wondering if this is an all-encompassing return, because there's also like I could return to you something that I borrowed from you. Like an item.
You can say no.
There's a different word for that.
The word there is rendre. Render.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I learned render, but I didn't know it was also used in that context.
Notice over there on your vocabulary on the right-hand side, it tells you that it's present tense. It says it's je, which is wrong, but the je form and the il form are the same. So our automatic,
so it's not wrong. It's just not right in this context.
Right. It tells you what the infinitive is. It tells that it's a verb. And you could go,
This tag doesn't seem necessary.
No. I mean, you don't need to take it. You can remove it,
I could also add.
Yeah, you can add a tag. But il, elle, that's good. And let's look at the dictionaries. Conjugation reverso, click on that, because I think it's such a good dictionary. So there you can see that the je form and the il, elle form are the same. And it's not such an issue now because in the first lessons, everything is in the present tense, but later on when we're into all kinds of different tenses, it'll be useful to go to context reversal just to make sure you have the right tense here.
Yes.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Okay.
That's a tough one for me, those pronunciations.
Oh yeah, those are good. But all these pronunciation things, it's all practice. Like right now, you've only been at it a few weeks. It's tough. 6 months from now, it'll be just second nature.
All right. Here's hoping.
Yeah.
Okay. Tous les jours, il rentre du travail en voiture.
Voilà. So tous les jours, you could say chaque jour because it says every day.
Chaque jour. Chaque jour.
Chaque means every, right? But the translator chose to go tous les jours, which is fine. Every day.
Tout is like a really common,
Right.
It's commonly found in a lot of phrases. Like
actually,
tout le monde.
Right. Actually, I'm wrong because each day would be chaque jour. So every day is tous les jours.
Day. Yeah.
I'm wrong. She's right. What do you know? I'm usually
there
wrong.
you go.
Okay. Il rentre du travail.
Du travail.
So du travail, from work, du travail.
Okay. En voiture.
En voiture. En voiture. So the en is in, it's not dans sa voiture. You could say in his car, dans sa voiture, but en voiture means by car. Okay. Il est dans sa voiture. He is in his car. You wouldn't say il est en sa voiture. No. Il est dans sa voiture. He is in his car, but he comes back or gets home from work by car, en voiture.
En voiture. Yeah, it's a good phrase to have.
Okay.
So, why is this not plural?
Which one is that?
Voitures.
Is plural.
Yeah, voiture.
Yeah.
Sur l'autoroute.
L'autoroute. Don't forget that AU is always O.
I know. I keep on wanting to pronounce it like in Spanish.
You will for a long time.
The Autobahn. Great. That's a good way to remember that. Okay.
Now, one thing I should also point out, and remember, everything I point out is just to help you notice things because you're going to forget, but you'll notice it again. Beaucoup is like always beaucoup de. Like we say many cars, but they say many of cars. Beaucoup. Yes. In other words, if it wasn't beaucoup d'autres voitures, it would be beaucoup de voitures. Many cars. Many other cars, beaucoup d'autres voitures.
And I could think of it like in English, if it, instead of being many, if beaucoup was a lot, because we always have to say a lot of.
Yes, exactly. Very good point. Beaucoup d'eau. The other thing I would click on il y a. You're comfortable with il y a?
Yes, there are.
Right.
That's a really good phrase, though. I want to say
it's very useful to have il y a, il y a. It's like I in Spanish.
Yes, very useful.
Yep.
Il y a beaucoup d'autres voitures.
Beaucoup. No P.
Beaucoup. Il y a beaucoup d'autres voitures sur l'autoroute.
L'autoroute, yeah.
L'autoroute.
You know, and it's very annoying. Like, I can remember when I was into Russian, and of course, what looks to us like a P is an R in Russian. And 6 months into Russian, I would look up the dictionary under the P section. Like, it just takes so long for certain new habits to form. So don't get upset if you continue to say beaucoup, because you will. And you'll say autoroute instead of autoroute. You will. And then all of a sudden you'll notice that you're not doing it anymore.
And how long did it take you before, or are you still having a hard time with the Russian P?
No, not at all. Not at all. But
how long did it take?
I can't remember. But some things, you know, some habits form quickly and some habits, like in Russian, all of their difficult, you know, case endings and that, it's still difficult. I make mistakes. I did a video in Russian the other day and I got some criticism for my grammar and stuff. So different things to sock in at different times. There's no predicting. We
had a YouTube commenter ask, what is the hardest language that you've ever learned? Do you have a straightforward answer for that?
They're difficult for different reasons. I mean, Arabic is difficult. Persian is easier. Slavic languages are difficult for their grammar. But you have some vocabulary in common. Arabic, very little. They're all different. They're all difficult for different reasons. But the Romance languages like French, Spanish are for an English speaker easier. Mm-hmm. So because I don't want to make it too easy for you. I want you to get overconfident. I think what we want to do now is to head into the next set of mini stories where we are dealing with lots of different tenses.
All right. Sounds
all right. Good. Okay. Bye for now.